Welcome to the Geek in Review, the podcast focused on innovative and creative ideas in the legal industry. I'm Marlene Gabauer.
And I'm Greg Lambert. And this week we have brought back a couple of guys that we had about this time last year, I think. Ken Jones is the principal at Zertic Group, and Josh Smith is manager of information security, governance, risk, and compliance at Ogletree Deacon. So Josh and Ken, welcome back to the Geek in Review.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having us.
All right, well, we're going to talk about the work that you guys are doing with ILTA Evolve here in a minute, but I thought while we had a couple of guys that were experts in conference topics and pulling things together, we thought the little banter that we would have this week would be talking about how conferences are actually kind of looking in 2025 versus 2024. And I think last year we had, it's kind of like all AI all the time. That was the hot topic. So as from your experience, how do you think, and maybe Josh, I'll have you kick this off. How do you think conference attendees are going to look differently at what their expectations are this year?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. That's a great question. And we've discussed this kind of internally at ILTA as well as a whole, that we're seeing a shift from, last year's kind of AI is the hottest new thing and all these theoretical, what can we do with AI? And now I think this year we're seeing a shift to the practical aspect of it, right? So what are we actually doing with AI? Where is it making a difference? How is it a cost saver or a workload shifter, right? From that base level knowledge worker to enable them to do something else that AI can do. So I think we're seeing that shift from theoretical practice to actual having AI in practice this year.
Some more practical, or so like practical applications as opposed to the what ifs.
Yeah, Ken, you got any insights on that?
Yeah, for sure. So as Josh mentioned, that's a critical element. I would perhaps direct everyone to the Gartner Hype Cycle, a very famous chart that Gartner Group puts out.
And we've mentioned that a couple of times.
Yeah, we're 1 year further down the road on that. And so you shift a little bit more from hype into use cases, as Josh mentioned. So one key element of the topic of the conference this year that we're eager to explore is real life use cases, partnering member firms with leading AI providers and talking about what works and what doesn't work so that members have something successful that they can bring back to their firms. Another really important element, Greg, Marlene, Josh, is the topic of governance, control, the proper use of the technology. The ABA has formal opinion 512, I believe, that starts to speak to how it's used. There are ISO certification standards, 42001, I believe, that'll be explored at the conference. And just more generally speaking, how to be very concerned in a world where privacy and confidentiality of client data is important. Where to use public AI, where to use domain-specific LLMs within a law firm, where to use technology that's embedded within key legal tech vendors, the document management companies, and as folks, stuff that we're all familiar with. So there's a wide variety of technologies and issues and considerations to explore, and we look forward to doing it at the conference.
So I'm curious, what's the process for identifying and selecting, the themes? How do you ensure that they resonate with the audience and the evolving legal tech landscape?
So, I'll start that one off and then Josh can add to it. So the key to this, Marlene, as I think is in many things in life, is awesome leadership and an outstanding team. So we have a great team of 12 session coordinators, a team where ILTA folks volunteer for that and get interviewed and get placed into the roles. So they're an important element. They're like a focus group, I would say, to help us all understand which items are most important. And then, obviously there are leading voices in the legal tech field, both within ILTA and outside ILTA, keynote speaker type folks. And we bounce ideas off of them and get their perspective. And we're thrilled to have, for example, Zach Abramovitz of Killer Whale Strategies back with us last year. He was a keynote speaker last year, did a workshop. He's a huge friend of ILTA. We're thrilled to have him back, and he's a valuable resource. Joy Heath Rush is also, the CEO of ILTA. And so we rely on a team of folks to give us feedback and Some of it's qualitative, like we just talked, and sometimes we have committee members vote on things, and it's more quantitative. But the goal is to get deep and wide input from a wide variety of folks for the purpose of having great content.
And I'll just echo what Ken said. We have a great content committee, a really diverse group of folks in all aspects of cybersecurity and AI, right? Even member law firms, business partners, and they all have come together to help us put together a great panel of sessions for this year.
So, I mean, clearly you have this group of folks that are contributing to the thought process. What do you think inspires their vision and allows this to flow into ILTA Evolve 2025? And I'm also curious how each of you contributed to shaping the overarching mission and objectives for the conference.
Go ahead, Josh.
Sure, I'll take it. Sorry, I was going to wait and let you take it. I think, a lot of the volunteer service with ILTA, right, as a whole, not specifically with this conference, is giving back to the community, right? You put all these educational sessions together, but you want the community to appreciate it, to benefit from it, right? Because, if we even learn things when we're helping teach things, right? So putting the conference together for us, we learn so much, and we learn from each other, and we learn from industry the best folks in the industry that come and speak at this conference. So it's really rewarding for me personally, I think for the committee as well, to put something together like this that is fairly small and intimate, right? Where great networking, you can mingle with industry experts, but the reward of putting it together and making it come to fruition and having a great time and great education is really rewarding for me.
And for me, Marlene, I think there's incredible value in many levels of diversity that are present in the committee, gender, age, but the biggest one to me is vocational diversity. The committee is made up of business partners and consultants and member firms. And so we get a lot of different types of input and a lot of different experiences, people who use technology, people who provide technology. So that's awesome. And from a personal perspective, as you asked, I'll be honest, I wasn't incredibly into artificial intelligence before I started working with the ILTA Evolve Conference. And year after year, sitting through incredible presentations last year by folks like Kristen, Sunday, and Zach, and many, many others, and seeing how they use the technology, and then working on your own to apply it in your own vocation, in your own life. And what I do, in addition to working at Zurich, I'm a Seton Hall professor, and we use the technology there to create tests and assessments and to create text-to-voice lectures and all types of things that are hugely beneficial to the faculty. And so I just find that being around a incredibly motivated, articulate, and skilled group of professionals that understand artificial intelligence and cybersecurity brings great value to my life. And I hope that I can share that vision and share those experiences to enhance the content this year.
So, Ken, I'll throw this back to you. I know you talked a little bit about some of the topics that are going on. There's, again, some of the AI advancements that we've seen over the last year, cybersecurity, cloud solutions. So, what kind of went into the process to make sure that you were getting a wide enough variety of materials and speakers on topics for that will resonate with the audience this year?
Sure. So there are two general elements, Greg, Marlene, and Josh, to the collection of ideas and folks. There's a call for sessions and a call for speakers. And they're fairly broad, open-minded sort of brainstorming type things where we will broadly advertise on LinkedIn and other forums that these are available and encourage members of the community to submit their ideas. I myself actively and aggressively go throughout my network to solicit ideas. And I try, Greg, to do it from members, from established companies in the legal tech space, like the typical ILTA vendor, but also startups and folks who think differently. And the whole goal is to try to get as many different ideas as possible. And we had a ton this year, as we always do, and we do for ILTACon also. Then there's a process of going through them, which Josh and I do primarily and collectively to sort of merge them and find, common themes, the themes that were suggested the most, the themes that seem interesting. We do that. There's an element where we put it out to vote, like I mentioned before, amongst the committee to validate our findings. And then you move into the speaker process, and that's fairly similar also. You're hoping to get a wide variety of speakers. It's very important to ILTA and Josh and I to try to find new voices, diverse voices, different voices, but also the best quality voices. And so there's a lot of advertising and promotion that goes into that. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So is Josh. So is Katie and other members of ILTA. And it is our hope that those activities to have a broad, diverse group and to reach out to folks curates the highest possible quality of content.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to be at Myrtle Beach at the end of April either. Right?
Not at all.
It's a beautiful location, and we know
destination conference.
putting aside content, as we all know, the ILTA community is a group of wonderful people, and everybody has a ton of fun, and that's a great place to have fun also.
Terrific. So Tara Wheeler is set to deliver the keynote at ILTA Evolve 2025, and she's bringing her expertise in cybersecurity to the forefront. So what specific themes or insights from her talk do you think will resonate most with the audience, and how do they align with the overall mission of this year's event? And Josh, I'll send that to you first.
Sure, yeah. So the title of her keynote is Navigating the Digital Frontier, Unveiling the Intersection of AI and Cybersecurity, which is precisely what our conference is tackling, right? So she's a great background with Tara. She's fantastic. Background as a white hat hacker, definitely a pen testing expert and ethical hacking and all that. And so her keynote aims to explain that intersection between cybersecurity and AI. And I think that one of the descriptions is that artificial intelligence can be a formidable ally in the ongoing battle for digital resilience. So we really look forward to having her. The things that I've heard about her are great. I haven't heard her speak in person, but the things I have heard her do are fantastic. So we're really excited about her keynote this year.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one.
I always chuckle when I hear ethical hacking. It's
right.
It's like jumbo shrimp or military intelligence.
I would say, Marlene, to broaden that topic slightly, is that cybersecurity obviously is a topic where defending your company is critical, and pen tests and vulnerability scans and employee training and the things that we all have traditionally spoke about are really, really, really important. And Tara brings, like Josh and Greg mentioned, the offensive security, the ethical hacking element to the conference. And this year we also have other sessions that bring different types of elements, looking at the dark web, looking at facial recognition, looking at trending things like the FBI warning on text messages and the threats that they pose. So we're hopeful that even if you come to the conference year over year, that there's a lot of fresh perspectives, looks through different prisms, and ways that attendees will have and gain different types of value.
Yeah. And I think the cybersecurity part, I know we've been so excited about all of the potential with AI, but I'm hearing, that a lot of networks are seeing huge increases in cybersecurity attacks every day, and the common theme is that the AI tools are really making it much easier to kind of automate and enhance and change a lot of these things. So I think even though we may not be hearing it as much as we probably should, it's definitely a topic that is very relevant in 2025.
All right, and there are a lot of aspects of that, Greg. From making the email sound more realistic, more human, or more appropriate in whatever language you deliver the attack in, right? So make this sound great in English, make this sound great in French. The automation of it, like you mentioned, the help with coding to create some kind of new code that may not exist that you can sneak in. So you've always got to be aware of that. It's the possibilities are exponential, but we hope that we can stay ahead of the black hat guys for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking, sort of listening to this, that the basically firms, even at the user level, like their knowledge of just sort of digital knowledge and compliance knowledge and security knowledge is really going to have to be ratcheted up because of all the things that you're saying, that it is so much easier and it does sound so much better. And, people are just going to need to have even more training on awareness.
Exactly. Be prepared for those longer security awareness training videos to come out, right?
And Josh,
be prepared for them testing you.
Yeah, and Josh, how much all the lawyers and the professional staff just love those trainings,
they
right?
do.
Right. Yeah. And funny enough, we actually have a product that we've used called Synthesia to deliver AI-generated training videos that are like 60 seconds long, and we found that that's really the sweet spot for attorneys, right? If it's something 60 seconds, it's not going to take up part of a billable hour. They'll watch 60 seconds, and if you can deliver a pointed message in that 60 seconds, you may find some success there.
Yeah.
Hey, Greg, I would just add in closing maybe that artificial intelligence offers great potential in response also. The higher volume of attacks that you mentioned results in higher volume of logs, higher volume of information, and it's really challenging and difficult to wade through it all. But the more you can automate, looking for anomalous behavior, and then really importantly, responding as quickly as humanly possible to shut it down, will be of great value. And it becomes increasingly more challenging as the level of data becomes more voluminous.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if people are going to discuss.
It's a never-ending task.
Is it going to become more important to have more security experts, or given what AI can do in terms of automation, less important to have more security experts?
Yeah, we've discussed that really because you see that if you can use it as a shift in workflow or a shift in the workforce, so you can use those entry-level knowledge workers to do something else that AI can't do. So, AI can read your logs. I can go into Security Copilot and say, give me a synopsis of what just happened. And it can instantly tell me what just happened without spending 30 minutes or an hour going through all these logs and all these systems. So while Security Copilot, for instance, is doing that, you can have that entry-level security analyst focusing on, a higher level task or broadening their knowledge of what they need to do with the information that AI provides. But I always think you'll have that human element. And I hope it doesn't displace the workforce like some folks think. I really just hope we see that workplace shift of using those intelligent minds for something else versus something the script can do.
I was reading that there's going to be a lot more new kind of technology jobs than the ones that are lost. It's just a question of sort of where those are going to be.
Right.
Are they going to be in this space or not?
I think we see that in all kinds of Mag 7 companies where Salesforce and Meta are both laying off, but also hiring large numbers of agentic AI workers. So as you pointed out, Marlene and Josh, the workplace, the overall numbers might not be going down. They might even be going up, but the type of job will be varying significantly.
Yeah. Good time to be flexible on what you do, right?
Absolutely.
Get some online certificates.
One final question on the ILTA Evolve, because I know you're going to have a good cross section of attendees with different backgrounds and responsibilities. You got a good group of speakers that are going to be talking on the different topics, and then you're going to have the exhibitor base as well. So how are you planning on kind of like letting everyone kind of commingle together and share those ideas and have those conversations?
I can start, and then I'm sure Josh can have his thoughts also. So, first of all, as I think we all know, but maybe the community doesn't, Evolve is a little bit smaller event. 35 or so exhibitors, attendance in the 300 or 400 range. So it's different from ILTACon, and it's a little bit more intimate, and it's a little easier maybe to engage in opportunities. ILTA's done an awesome job of not making it two separate conferences, but one combined conference in terms of the layout of the space, and to ensure that there are common areas for meals and keynotes and things like that. So security professionals will have the opportunity to speak with AI folks and vice versa and so forth. And finally, there's a number of awesome events that I think will foster collegial communication. The welcome party. There's an event both on Sunday and Monday. ILTA has their Distinguished Peer Awards, which is a formal event, an awards ceremony to honor many folks who have done prestigious things, companies, only law firms, business partners, individuals. And so that'll be an opportunity to acknowledge the wonderful contributions of so many folks in the industry. So there's a broad array of different types of activities that I think will foster and encourage interaction.
I agree. And, we built in networking breaks throughout the day, so it's not just a stiff sit there all day and listen to someone speak to you. And we encourage the sessions to be interactive, so ask some Q&A within the actual educational session, so you can have some dialogue within the time frame that's allotted for the session. But yeah, like Ken said, we have some great pre-conference events, some things that are happening the nights that we're there, and then plenty of time to get together to talk during the networking breaks after the conference, and some workshops that we have planned. So it's a great opportunity, a smaller gathering that you can come talk to your friends and make new ones. Great opportunities for networking with like these industry experts that we have coming to speak. So great opportunity to come and network and learn a little bit.
Now, I'll just build on Josh's comments to include two that I shouldn't have omitted, which is ILTA provides training to our session coordinators, and we're thrilled to have Josh Lazar, who's a committee member and also a faculty member at a university in Florida, to provide us with training on experiential learning and the type of interaction that Josh alluded to. So, that's a really important element of the conference. And he said this, but I'll just reiterate that it's not just educational sessions. There's 4 workshops, and the workshops are designed to be more hands-on and, with partnerships between ILTA business partners and members to go through real-life case studies and work on things together, which also is a great way to build camaraderie and develop interaction between attendees.
Well, I think it's great that you're kind of mixing it up. So it's firstly, it's a smaller scale than ILTA, and so that that encourages people, I think, to have more conversations than maybe they would otherwise with a large setup. You're also doing the hands-on versus presentations and lectures, and ILTA is always great about doing the networking. So that is just carrying over here as well.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like it's going to be a really terrific event.
And probably in closing, I should mention that I hear Josh is a world-class cornhole player, and so he'll have the opportunity to show that off on the beach in Myrtle Beach. I'm sorry.
Like, we just want videos of that. We just need to have that now.
Myrtle Beach at the end of April sounds a lot better than DC or Orlando or Vegas in August, right?
That's right.
Right. I hope the weather is perfect.
All right. So Josh and Ken, I'm going to ask you to pull out your crystal ball and, what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge or opportunities for legal tech and potential evolve topics in the next few years? Where should we be thinking?
Well, I'll start off with this one. It's really hard to say, and I know it's a crystal ball question.
That's a lawyer response.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not even an attorney. I just learned from a lot of them. You think that, and I'm a security practitioner by nature, right? I do information security at Ogletree and have for a decade in higher ed. But you think that security is always going to be a topic, and we may not, because you're starting to see some things with security become operational, right? They're built in. It's kind of like the everyday thing, but then all of a sudden you have something like AI proliferate wildly, and then there are all these new security concerns. So it may always be an operational thing for ILTA, or for Evolve rather, to be one part of the conference. But if something new and hot comes up, the name of the conference is Evolve. So I think ILTA will evolve appropriately and add that or replace something with it for a year or two if that's the case. But I think right now, security and AI are the appropriate 2 topics, but we'll see what happens in the future.
From me, Marlene, of course, it's a challenging question to answer, but the more data we have and the more advanced technology we use, I think the more information governance is super critical. It's really hard, even as law firms went from on-prem to the cloud to figure out what data is stored where and how to manage it. And this takes it up to another level. I mean, think about just like the last 2 weeks. I mean, as at the time of this taping, a DeepSeek came into play and other, Chinese AI companies, and you're talking about open source versus proprietary and who will be doing what. It's incredibly dynamic. And so the only thing I think we could say for sure is that there'll be a tremendous amount of change, and it'll be a challenge to look at where data is stored, look at work processes, look at workflows, and the new tools that are out there, and try to optimize the way that a legal professional works. And so that's not exactly the answer you asked for, but I think it's a very, very challenging question to address.
It's a great answer. It's like, and the other thing I was thinking is like, I mean, particularly given the current administration, like what's going to happen with regulatory? Like, are we going to, we were sort of moving in the direction of more regulation, and, is that going to change?
Never heard of it.
I know. Is that going to change? And so how is that going to impact, our compliance initiatives?
I mean, we all saw, for example, that the vice president was at the Paris AI conference this week and speaking about that exact topic amongst many others, and how this incredible emerging beneficial technology should be used appropriately with the proper amount of guardrails. And there's at least 4 areas of consideration: bias, hallucination, privacy, and confidentiality, and probably intellectual property also. And it's incredibly challenging to set rules in this space, just as it would for something like the Paris Accord for environmental controls. And so, the regulatory landscape is vital, in terms of understanding how these technologies will move forward in the world. And the same for cybersecurity, GDPR and the California Privacy Act and things like that.
This is international. This is
always changing, and who it will be very interesting to see how the regulation element of it is impactful on the industry.
And I think we'll probably see the same trends like we did with GDPR, right? We'll see it originate in Europe, right? And then we'll have some kind of watered down version of it in the different states. And then hopefully at some point we'll have some kind of a nationwide thing that, like the EU AI Act, for instance. But, and like like Ken said, in the privacy arena, I really think that instead of having the individual states have their own, let's just have one nationwide one where we can not have to open up 13 different books when we develop a program to make sure we're in compliance with all the laws, right? But we'll see what happens. That's a good crystal ball question too, like what's going to happen. But I think it'll kind of mimic the trend that GDPR did as far as the use of AI and legislation there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for being brave enough to give us your predictions. As a genius once said, predicting things is really hard, especially if it involves the future.
Right.
So.
That was Yogi.
All right. Well, Ken Jones and Josh Smith, thank you very much for coming in and talking with us about ILTA Evolve, happening at the end of April in beautiful Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Thanks for coming on the Geek in Review. It's been great having you guys back.
Always great to see you both.
Thank you both.
Yes, thank you. Thank you both again. And thanks to all of you, our listeners, for taking the time to listen to the Geek in Review podcast. If you enjoy the show, share it with a colleague. We'd love to hear from you, so reach out to us on LinkedIn.
And Ken and Josh, we'll make sure we put the links for ILTA Evolve on the show notes. But if someone wants to learn more about it or reach out, where's a good place to find you? Ken, I'll start with you.
Sure. I mean, the general ILTA website is iltanet.org, and one could go to live events and navigate down. I'll spare you the reading of the whole URL. But that's a great place. And Josh, myself, and ILTA and others are posting frequently about it on LinkedIn also.
Perfect.
And I failed to mention we are also on Blue Sky, so you can check us out. You can check us out on Blue Sky. I got to get used to that. And as always, the music you hear is from Jerry David DeSica. Thanks again, Jerry.
All right. Thanks, Jerry. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.